fire this up. Let's just go.
That's what she's saying.
Mm-hmm.
Hi, I'm Richard Kind, and you're listening to the CVH Podcast. That's what she said.
Yes. Hey everybody. Saturday, May 24th. Welcome. I'm in London. If you can't tell, I'm in London. This painting behind me is not nearly as beautiful as the one in Madrid, but beggars can't be choosers. I spend my whole life in these apartments, and I check, this is thoroughly checked. Before I move into a place, it's like, what's the bed situation? Do I have to sleep diagonal? That's a big one. The bed is a big one. Also, has there ever been a cat in this place in the history of the apartment? A cat it'll ruin my life for sure. And so we triple check on the cat. We have a good look at the bed, make sure that thing's long enough for size huge. Make sure that toilet is not 1 inch from the floor. The whole thing sort of needs to be Christianized. But one thing I don't do is check the artwork, and I think I'm going to now need to do that because the artwork in Madrid was just so superior to what's behind me now. But beggars can't be choosers. Good light in here, though. Welcome. Been doing Carmen, kind of. I've been kind of doing Carmen this week. This is the plight of Escamillo. Everybody wants everybody there. Excuse me. Everybody wants everybody there on the first day of rehearsal. Sounds great, right? Be lovely. Be lovely if everybody showed up on the first day. It's rarely the case, but I do make it a point to try and not be the late guy. I'm not always allowed to be the late guy. And in this situation, there was no reason. The timing of it worked out perfect that I left Madrid and arrived here the next day and started rehearsal the next day. But I've been here a week now. And in the week, I've worked a couple hours. That sounds like I'm bragging, my job's so easy, I never have to work. But really what it is that I've paid for a condo or an apartment or a flat, whatever they call it here, a flat. They call it a flat here. I've paid for a flat for a week, to work a couple of hours. And, it's the cost of doing business, but at the same time, it's a hefty cost of doing business. One less week on the road is one extra week at home. One less week of having to pay to be here. It's a funny thing. It's something that needs to be thought about. Honestly, Escamillo's really only in 3 scenes, and in that third scene, he's on stage for about 90 seconds. You go through a lot of trouble. They put you in this. I had a very, very, very humbling costume fitting. That's putting it mildly. This costume was not built for me. And so I'm talking about the suit of lights, the real matador in the middle of the ring suit. And, you wear this on stage for, it's less than 2 minutes. For sure it's less than 2 minutes. They must cost a fortune. They're so authentic. They're beautiful. They're absolutely stunning. But the one on the rack looked like for my baby brother. Whoever wore this before me was 5'6" and 160 pounds. Like this, probably matador size, but not necessarily opera singer or even man size. I think it was fitted to a very petite, like Carlo Giuro soprano. Sorry, whoever wore this before. I don't know who you are, but it's so it's time to squeeze into this thing. But just looking at the rack, I know this is never going to work. Like that costume is not for me. I'm certain of it. But they're like, no, this one's for you. And I said, did you guys get measurements? Did somebody send measurements from another place or? So we start putting this thing on, and it's really clear. Like you would, if if they like put their foot on my chest and with 4 people tried to close this vest, they might be able to get the buttons to kind of touch. But if they were, it would be completely compromised. If we actually did get it closed, they just would have been, popping right down the center. I was starting to feel bad about myself, honestly, and then I was like, you know what? This is just not this is not my costume. And I've worn the suit of lights in 6 different places right now, and so there's at least 6 costumes out there that fit, that are my size. And so I threw it out there and said, hey, I just did one of these in San Francisco. Why don't we make a phone call and see if somebody might, go into the Indiana Jones warehouse and find out which crate this thing is buried in, and get it on over here, because this is size small and I am not. Yeah. So I apologized to the customer. I said, you're going to have to Frankenstein this thing together if you expect that to fit me. And we worked hard. It was humbling. I was more embarrassed for them because it was clearly like they were struggling to be like, what the hell are we going to do with this giant man? Like there wasn't an awareness of my 6'4"-ness. It's not to say that everybody should know exactly what I look like, but it's not that hard to figure out. I have never worked here before. Now they know. And so the other suit that I wear in Act 3 is being built for me, and it was perfect. It was absolutely lovely and beautiful, and it's going to be great. And they're going to make me look great. I'm sure of it. It was just a rather humbling experience to put on the Matador costume and say, if you can get that closed, I'm not going to be able to breathe. Let's see if we can't find some material and expand these trousers. They say trousers here. There's a lot of words I don't know that are. Fries are chips and chips are crisps. I try to remember that one. That's a big one. Yeah. That's what's been going on. I had a humbling costume fitting. I'm completely staged. We've done the whole thing. It looks great. Sounds great. Everybody in the room, fantastic. This has been so far a wonderful professional place to work. Low ceilings at Covent Garden, in the hallways. I noticed that. Yeah, like the ceiling. I could sort of drag my if I got up on my toes, my hair would probably touch the ceiling in the hallways. They're kind of short that way, but we're in a big, glorious rehearsal room with natural light. My God, when do we ever have natural light in the rehearsal room? Yeah, nice. I felt welcomed and loved and being well taken care of. And as soon as we can open that costume, everything's going to be good. But there's plenty of time. There's plenty of time to do it. That won't be a problem at all. But that's what I'm dealing with. Extra downtime. I have surprisingly found out that food in London is a lot cheaper than most places. Now, I doubt anybody here would agree with me. Probably not. But compared to where I've been in America, food prices here are almost like what they're supposed to cost. Yeah, I would say that's like every time I leave the grocery store, I never feel screwed. You know how you go to the grocery store and you're like, I have 4 things that was $28. That doesn't make sense, But here, I've got a whole grocery bag and it's $28. I'm enjoying that part very much. And just the most, diverse community I've ever been in. There's so many different restaurants to choose from. I'm in this area is called Marylebone. I think I'm saying that right. I'm not sure. I've asked a few people. They weren't always certain either. But there's a handful of Lebanese restaurants around the corner, and each one smells better than the next. I don't know how many of you get into Middle Eastern food. I do. I love it. And these places, the curry houses and the other Middle Eastern places in London, they get going around 4 o'clock. And you go, oh my God, I'm going to try everything. And then I'm never going to get my costume. That's how that's going to go. Madrid wrapped up awesome. I loved it. I loved it. A big double-decker bus just went by. It's very British here. It's very British. Big double-decker red bus goes by my window. I'm on the ground floor. It's not great. The shows in Madrid went awesome. The Attilas went perfect. The concerts were great. The audience was fantastic, and we're already talking about stuff to go back to, which is idyllic. As soon as we finished up there, it was clear that everybody was happy with the work we had done. And I was starting to look for apartments immediately. Like it's one of those cities I thought I could easily live here. I really thought that. I was like, I could live in Madrid for sure. I could live in Madrid, and just go to the bullfights every night. I've been wearing pink socks ever since then, just to feel more matador-y. I don't know if you knew that. Matadors only wear pink socks. Yeah. This downtime for me, as I'm calling it, Escamillo is kind of downtime in general. But, I'm putting Nabucco in my head so that we can jump into something in progress in Verona. Verona is amazing in that they only do if you're in a production, you only do one performance a week. So 4 performances, 4 weeks. And this Nabucco that we're doing is a new production, but the cast that's doing it in June are doing the new production. I'm doing the July performances. Like it's a whole new cast for July. And the June people are creating the show. So they've got endless amounts of rehearsal. We have 4 or 5 days in which to see what the other people did and just do that. They'll send me a video. I'm sure they'll send me a video. But yeah, so the Nabucco needs to be sort of, I need to hit the ground running as far as my memory goes, because 5 days of rehearsal is no rehearsal at all. And I love my Italian friends, and they the rehearsal can go a little bit like this. I'm an American, so I show up on time, right? I'll show up early. And then about 10 minutes after that, somebody will come in and kind of turn on the lights and open the piano. And then 15 minutes after that, like music staff will start to come in. Cigarette breaks, coffee breaks. Half hour later, we start rehearsal. And then a half hour after that, they're like, basta per oggi. That'll do it. That's enough for today. That's enough work. It really is. But something my friend Maestro Frizza one time said to me, he says, you're going to watch The Italian Miracle. I said, what's The Italian Miracle? He says, everything's going to be fine. Everything's going to come together and everything's going to be fine. And I was like, I don't know. We're kind of under-rehearsed. Everything's going to be fine. And he was completely right. Everything came together and the shows were amazing. This was in Rome 10 years ago at least. The Italian Miracle. So we're going to perform The Italian Miracle in Verona. And then that cast is going to hop a quick plane to Mallorca and do one more performance in the first week of August. And then my summer's done. That's it for me. 8 performances of Escamillo. I got a wedding in Nice. I got 4 performances in Verona, 1 in Mallorca, and I'm calling it a summer. I'm taking most of August to myself. I'm going to go visit some family and go back, put my feet up, maybe paint my deck. Paint the front porch. There's a lot of painting that needs to happen in my house. I have a house my house is 30 years old, and some of these things have never been dealt with in the 30. I've only owned it for 4 years, but a lot of things haven't been dealt with, I think, since they sold the place. So we're going to get some spackle, get some paint, and I'm going to pretend to know how to use those things. That's what I'm going to do. And I was talking earlier, as people are gearing up, I just heard earlier today about some summer plans for 3-4 years from now, just an offer to go be somewhere for the summer. And it made me think about being a young artist and getting those summer plans sealed up. You didn't know, hundreds and hundreds of singers apply for these young artist positions at the summer festivals, Santa Fe, St. Louis, what are the other ones? Central City. I went to Central City one year, Chautauqua. There's places to go in the summer. Glimmerglass. And the young singers in college want these spots, and they're coveted. Everybody wants one. Everybody wants to sing in the chorus or sing a bit part or get a scene or sing for some professionals, just kind of like edge up a little bit higher. And I can remember sort of sweating out how the summer was going to go. And a lot of people didn't get summer gigs. For every one that did, there was 50 others that didn't. And that was tough. That was hard on them. I was very lucky to I was a bass, and every opera needs you. Basses are needed. And so especially when you're young, they just, it was a lot easier for me, but the sopranos had a much harder time. And, it was a bummer for them. They didn't always get to go have a summer gig. And, I was talking about this earlier because I was trying to see if something can work in the schedule and blah, blah, blah. But that's boring. But what was being discussed was how did you get those gigs? If you didn't get it, you wanted it. How did you get it the next time? Did you take the rejection as motivation, or did you take the rejection as rejection and just move on and say, "Oh, I guess this is not for me," and have that be the sounding bell to the end, or did it make you angry? And this kind of came back to this idea of, if you want more, you must be more. And I was reminded of some lyrics from a song about progress is slow, and if you win by inches. Everybody does the 90%. And then a much smaller group does the next 5%. And then the really smallest of the smallest group do that last 5%. That's the hardest part. The hardest part is the last 5%. And that's what makes you, that's what separates good from great. That's what puts you into that next level of being chosen. You're not the chosen ones, but you have been chosen. Somebody said this one over this one. You want to be on the side of the one who got the gig. You don't want to be on the side of the one who didn't get the gig. If you're on that side, figure out why. Study, analyze, don't blame. Blame yourself. Figure it out and fix it quick. It's that extra 5% that separates good from great, from amateur to professional, and from unpaid to paid, because some people got to work at Starbucks for the summer and some people get to sing. In those early years, it was a dust up. I do remember one summer, and I won't say where, there was an unusual number of singers from a certain school, and that certain school had a connection to somebody who might have made decisions on that end. Now that's slanderous, and I won't say who, what, where, and why, but I think those days, maybe that still happens. I would think they'd have to be way more careful about that. But there was one summer where it seemed like there was some favoritism to one particular university. At least that's how we saw it. But I was there too, so I guess I can't say that it was entirely that. But certainly they had the pickings and the favoritism in a way to assignments. But yeah, I do remember that. But past those things, which you have no control over, that's luck. That's the luck part, and that's a very small percentage of anybody's career is luck. The parts that you can control, you must control. It's that 5% extra that people fail on. It's stumbling before the finish line. You've heard me say that before. Stumbling at the finish line. Going that little extra bit that makes you stand out as the one that should be chosen is imperative. I have friends who are not comfortable in success. They don't believe in their heart that they are deserving of it, and so when they get it, it's either sabotaged or self-sabotaged, or something doesn't allow them to enjoy that. You got to get out of that mentality. It's a loser mentality. That's not to say that they are losers, but it's the mentality of the person who doesn't get the gig. That needs to be looked past. The sooner you believe that you're great, the better off you're going to be. I never met a singer that didn't have a gigantic ego, and this is all part of it. Ugh. I just had a video foul up. I'm not great at all this. I pretend to be. There's a lot of electronics in front of me. There's a lot of lights and things that are recording and buzzing and digital things going by. I'm not a genius about this stuff. I just sort of like press the buttons I know to press and then hope that it works out. But my video shut down on me. So those of you watching on YouTube, I apologize. I'll keep the audio up, but you're just going to have to look at a still picture. I'll put up some beefcake for you so you can just feast your eyes the whole time. Anyway, it was interesting. It was interesting earlier to kind of think about all that stuff again and remember that this was that time, May. People were heading off to those gigs, and there were people that were left behind, and I'm talking to you right now. Figure out why you didn't get picked. Figure out why they did, and don't no blame, no conspiracy theories, please, God. I have there's people in my in my circles that are just absolutely convinced that the world is out to get them while they have the world by the balls. And so just don't get involved in any of that stuff. Keep your mind free of people out to get you. It's not true. If you're great, you're great. That's all there is to it. I love you for listening, but you knew that. Thank you so much for sitting here and listening to me once again. Much more from London. I'm here for, I don't know, at least another month and a half. We'll talk soon. Okay, thanks. Bye.